Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this, the 14th of May, 2021. I wish everybody again a happy Eid Mubarak, Salamat, Hari Raya. And today I would like to discuss something. I don't think we'll get through the whole chapter because it's quite a sizable chapter, but I was browsing through this book, the Bezels of Wisdom by Ibn Arabi, and this chapter that caught my eye is called The Wisdom of Solomon, the wisdom of compassion in the word of Solomon. And Ibn Arabi says, it, meaning a letter, is from Solomon. And it, that is the contents of the letter, are in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Some have supposed that the name of Solomon is here given precedence over the name of God. But this is not so. They speak of it in a way that is not consonant with Solomon's gnosis of his Lord. Indeed, how could what they say be appropriate in view of what Bilqis says of it? I have been sent a respectful letter, that is respectful to her. Perhaps they are prompted to say such things because Khosros tore up the letter of the Apostle of God, although he did not do so until he had read the letter and acquainted himself with its contents. Indeed, Bilqis would have done the same had she not been fitted for grace as she was, nor would the placing of his name before or after the name of God have saved the letter from destruction. Solomon mentions two kinds of mercy. The mercy of unobligated giving and the mercy of building obligation. So that is the mercy of unobligated giving and the mercy of building obligation. So there's a mercy of giving which you're not obliged to do, and there's a mercy that is binding and you're obliged to do, which are the compassionate and the merciful. Obviously, the reference to Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, but it's translated here into English. As the compassionate, he, Allah, gives freely, while as the merciful, he binds by obligation, although the latter proceeds from the former. So as Ar-Rahman, Allah gives freely, while as Ar-Rahim, he binds by obligation. So there's an obligation to it. There's an obligatory aspect that Allah has done himself. Although the latter proceeds from the former, so the nature of Ar-Rahim comes out of Ar-Rahman. In other words, the obligation still comes from freely giving, but Allah has added an obligation upon himself for it. God has prescribed mercy on himself for his servants in return for the acts performed by the servant, which are mentioned by God. As a right, God has imposed on himself so that by those acts, the servant might be deserving of his mercy. That is the mercy of obligation. Servants of this kind know well what part of themselves is the doer of action. Since human action is divided among 8 members, now God has shown that he is, in reality, the identity of each of the members. so that he is the only true agent. The form alone belongs to the servant. So whatever form things take within this world, ultimately, the only one making anything happen is Allah. And that probably blow a lot of people's minds, because that's not how we're accustomed to thinking about how things work. What it means, for instance, is if someone comes to you and does something kind to you, although they are doing that thing, it is really Allah who has put the inspiration in the heart of that person to do that kind action, and Allah that has enabled and given them permission to do it. So ultimately, it is really just Allah who is doing that, but it takes the form of one of Allah's servants to fulfill those actions. This identity is implicit in him, that is in his name of servant alone, since God is the essence of what is manifest and what is called creature, by which the names of the outer and the last may accrue to the servant, seeing that he was not and then existed. Similarly, the names of the inner and the first are his, because his being manifest and his acting are dependent on him, are dependent on Allah. Thus, when you see a creature, you are seeing the first and the last, the outer and the inner. Solomon was by no means unaware of this knowledge, which was indeed an integral part of that dominion accorded to no one after him, at least in its sensory manifestation. Muhammad was granted what was granted to Solomon, but it was not outwardly manifest. God gave Muhammad power over a demon that came to him by night to destroy him. He seized it and tied it to a pillar of the mosque until morning, when the children of Medina played with it. He had remembered the supplication of Solomon, and God had cast it out. But whereas Solomon exercised that power outwardly, Muhammad did not. Salam alaikum. Solomon spoke of a dominion, and not a dominion as such. And we know that he wished for some dominion. We also know that the others shared with him in every aspect of the dominion God granted to him, as we know that he was especially privileged in that he enjoyed that dominion in its totality, and as shown by the tradition concerning the demon, that he alone exercised it outwardly. Wa alaikum assalam. Had Muhammad not said of the demon, God caused me to get the better of it, we would have said that when he went to seize it, God caused him to remember the prayer of Solomon, so that he might know that God was not giving him the power to seize it, since it was God who cast it away. When he said that God had caused him to get the better of it, we conclude that, having granted him a certain freedom of action with it, God reminded him, and he remembered the prayer of Solomon, acquitting himself in a similar manner. From this, we may learn what was denied to creatures after Solomon was the manifestation of the dominion in a universal way. Our only aim in discussing this point is to expound on the two kinds of mercy that Solomon mentioned in the two words, which in Arabic are Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. God binds, restricts the mercy of obligation and unleashes the mercy of giving in his saying, my mercy encompasses everything. Even the divine names, which are the real relationships. Indeed, he bestows them on us, since we are the result of the mercy of giving on the divine names and the dominical relationships. Then he made it binding on himself for us by our manifestation, and made us know that he is our identity, from which we might know that in truth he imposed it on himself only for himself, since the mercy is never outside him. On whom, therefore, does he bestow, seeing that there is only he? Despite the oneness of the original essence, one must, when speaking of the various capacities of creatures in the sciences, express things in various details, so that what one says that such a one is more learned than another. Now, that's quite a mouthful, and if I lost you there, don't worry about it. It's even hard for me to track a little bit. But basically, what Ibn Arabi is saying here is that God bestows through his rahmah, through his divine compassion or mercy. And also that comes through Allah's other names. Each of these names is itself a mercy and a compassion. And Allah bestows those qualities upon people. Not obviously to the same degree that they are in the divine, but those qualities are given to among the creatures. So rahmah and truthfulness, generosity. We recognize these qualities, but we know that Allah ultimately is the source of all of these. But it goes beyond that. Ibn Arabi is saying that as these qualities are bestowed upon the creatures themselves have these qualities, and it is Allah who is moving through the creature that allows them to manifest those qualities. So what it means is there is only really Allah. There is only really Allah. Allah is working through these mechanisms that Allah has put in place through the creation of different human beings, different creatures, different other kinds of creations, some of which we've discovered on this earth, some of which are out there in the universe. But Allah has created all of these things, but also they are still in some way connected with Allah. They're not truly separate, because how can they have an existence of their own when they come from Allah? Should Allah remove that existence, they will just cease to exist, which means all of this creation, its reality is conditional upon Allah, and Allah can remove that reality at any moment. So in a sense, there is no reality except the reality, which is Allah. So Allah is working through himself upon himself, and that manifests through the creation. But Ibn Arabi is also saying here that when we discuss this, despite that being the true reality of everything behind the veils, and that is the essence, but we still, when we discuss it, we have to discuss the various creatures and the capacities of the creatures. We can't just say that this is all oneness all of the time, even though it is, because it's very hard for anybody to make sense of that. So this is why we discuss creatures, we discuss different people, we discuss sheikhs. You see? Salam Raya. Otherwise it wouldn't make sense. So this is why we do that, but we always have to keep in mind and in our heart that ultimately the only reality, the only true reality is Allah, and it's Allah's rahmah that is manifesting through everything that is in existence. This is probably why Ibn Arabi loses some people, because they find that it's so different from what we experience on a day-to-day basis. But if you truly reflect on it, you will realize this must be true, because nothing else makes sense. But it is hard to grasp, because they're experiential. What we experience, what we see and hear and feel on a daily basis, is we're interacting with things. Even I'm interacting with a book here. I'm interacting with a phone and a computer. I'm interacting with things. But in reality, I'm just a creation of Allah interacting with the veils of Allah. And that is what we're all doing. Allah is the one moving my soul. Allah is the one who's provided all this what I see around me. And I'm in Allah's world, interacting with Allah. And it is oneness really, but it's hard to grasp that when we're actually interacting with things. This means that the scope of the divine wish falls short of the scope of the divine knowledge, which shows the comparative nature of the divine attributes. As with the superiority of the scope of the wish over his power, similarly with his hearing and sight. So all the divine names are graded according to their relative merits, one with another, as is also the case with what is manifest in creation. So that one might say that such a one is more learned than another, despite the oneness of the essence. So we grade things that we see and experience on a day-to-day basis. Even, we might say, like Ibn Arabi is saying here, we might say that one teacher is more learned than another teacher, but their essence is still the same. Their essence still comes from Allah. But at the same time, we grade things because life would be impractical if we didn't. That is how this world functions. Just as in emphasizing a particular name, one names it and describes it by all the names, such is also the case of a particular creature, in that it may be qualified by all the qualities with which it is normally compared. This is because every part of the cosmos is the totality of the cosmos, in that it is receptive to the realities of the disparate aspects of the cosmos. It's interesting as well, Ibn Arabi is writing this here, because nowadays there are theories about fractals and how the universe kind of behaves like a fractal. So it's like in its small parts, it mirrors its large parts, like the structure of the brain mirrors the structure of universes, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, And certainly, I mean, this is now being realized by modern science. But Ibn Arabi lived in the 12th century and early 13th century. So, I mean, I'm talking about the Western calendar there. So we're talking about 700 to 800 years ago, Thus, the fact that the identity of God is the essence of Zayd and Amma does not contradict us saying that Zayd is less learned than Amma, since the identity is more perfect and knowing in Amma than in Zayd. The divine names being nothing other than the reality, however much they may vary in merit. Thus, God as the knower is more universal in his scope than he who wishes, or as the powerful, albeit he himself He is himself and none other. So, O friend, do not know him in one context and be ignorant of him in another, nor affirm him in one situation and deny him in another, unless you affirm him in an aspect in which he affirms himself, and deny him in an aspect in which he denies himself, as in the verse in which the denial and affirmation of himself are brought together, when Allah says, "There is nothing like unto him," which is a denial, and he is the hearer and the seer, which is an affirmation of himself, with attributes attributable to all living creatures that hear and see. There is always some living creature in the world hidden from the awareness of some men, which will be manifest in the hereafter to all men, it being the abode of the living, as it is also this lower world, although its life is hidden from certain servants, so that the distinction and variety of the degrees among Allah's servants concerning what they grasp of the realities of the cosmos may be demonstrated. The reality is more evident in one whose awareness is universal than in one who lacks such universality. So do not be deceived by the manifest disparity of created things into gainsaying the one who asserts that creation is none other than the identity of the reality. I have just demonstrated the disparity among the names of God, which you do not doubt are the reality, their significance being in the one named by them, which is none other than God, Most High. How then may Solomon give precedence to his name over the name of God, as they say he did, seeing that he is but a part of the whole created by divine mercy? Surely the compassionate, the merciful, should have been first to confirm the dependence of the one who receives the mercy. Indeed, the putting first of one who should be last, and the putting last of the one who should be first in the position he merits, runs counter to all accepted realities. In her wisdom and sublime knowledge, Bilqis does not mention the person who sent her the letter, so that her advisors might know that she was in touch with things, the course of which they did not perceive. This is the way of God in the matter of dominion, since if the means of information coming to a ruler remain unknown to others, the people of the kingdom are very cautious in exercising their free will, and do not do so except in matters that have first been considered for them by their ruler, thus being safe from the possible evil consequences of such free action. Were it to be accorded to them by the one by whom the ruler is informed, they would treat with him and honor him until they could do what they wanted, and the ruler would not hear of it. She said, "A letter has been sent to me without naming the sender as a matter of policy." She had inherited the awe of her people and close advisors, and so merited precedence over them. As for the superiority of human over jinn concerning the mysteries of disposition and the special nature of things, it may be known from the measure of time, since the perception of the eye is quicker than the action of one rising from his seat, the movement of the eye in perceiving its object being more rapid than that of the body in moving from its place. That is because the time it takes for perception to take place is the same as it takes to reach the object, no matter what the distance is between the perceiver and the perceived, since it takes no more time for the eye to open than for its sight to reach the fixed stars, just as the closing of the eye takes no longer than the ceasing of perception. The rising of a person is not the same and is not as rapid. Thus, Asaf ibn Bakhir proved better in this respect than the jinn, since his utterance and his action took place in a single moment. Subhanallah. In that moment, Solomon saw with his eye the throne of Bilqis firmly set before him, lest he should imagine that he was seeing it while it remained in his own place without being moved. We do not know of instantaneous transference. Indeed, the causing not to be and to be of the throne happened in a way unknown to any, but he who apprised us of it in his saying, nay, they are confusion. They are confusion regarding a new creation. Although there was no lapse of time in which they did not see what they were looking at, it is as we have said, that the moment of its disappearance from one place is the same as its presence with Solomon, by virtue of the renewal of the creation of breaths. No one has any knowledge of this decree. Indeed, no one is aware of the fact in himself that with each breath he is not, and yet comes into being again. So there's a lot to unpack here. So this here is talking about the throne of Bilqis, and there was a miracle that is related in the Quran where this throne was transferred from her kingdom into Solomon's palace, or into his presence, wherever King Suleiman was. And there is a thing here that this was done by a different person. It wasn't through the jinn, it was done by a human who had a special I don't know, a gift or something, because as Ibn Arabi says here, no one knows how it happened except Allah. No one knows except Allah. And we don't know how to do that. Although there are some scientists working on transportation like they have in Star Trek, but at the moment we don't know. We don't know how did this throne transfer from one place to another place. But it is said that it happened instantaneously, like within the blinking of an eye, which, if you think about it, even any throne or any chair or any object, 1 minute be here, 1 minute be in where you are, for instance, you know, it's like, so I'm holding this book, and then next thing you're holding this book, you know, within the blink of an eye, you'd wonder what's going on. Like the quivering of a spear, then it shook. Now the time of its quivering is the same as that of shaking. He says then, although there is no lapse of time. Similarly, with the renewal of creation by breaths, the moment of the non-existence of a thing by the very moment of the existence of its like, as with the renewal of accidents, according to the Ash'arites. There's a point here as well. Ibn Arabi is focusing here on breath, because we breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. We forget, when we breathe in, that's giving us life. Should we cease to breathe? We will cease to be. We do it all the time. We have to breathe. If we don't breathe, we will die. But we don't think about it. We don't think of the importance of it. Not consciously, not all the time anyway. I mean, we're all aware of it, but we don't, while we're aware of it on one level, it's not something we always think about. which is what Ibn Arabi said here. No one has any knowledge of this decree. Indeed, no one is aware of the fact in himself that with each breath he is not and yet comes into being again. This is a very deep spiritual point, that when we breathe out, if we don't breathe back in, that's it, that's the end of it. We're finished. And on one level we know that, but on another level we don't really think about it. We just take it for granted. We all do. Most people do. And this is another rahmah of Allah, that we breathe for how many days, how many years. The matter of obtaining the throne of Bilqis is no different from most other theological questions, except for those who have inner knowledge of what we have said about it. Asaf's only merit in the matter was that he effected the renewal in the court of Solomon. One who truly understands what we have said will realize that the throne covered no distance, that no land was folded up for it, nor was it penetrated. It happened by means of a follower of Solomon, so that it should be something greater for Solomon in the hearts of those present than for Bilqis and her associates. That was because Solomon was a gift from God to David. And he says, and we gave to David Solomon. A gift is the bestowal of something as a favor by the giver, not as a token of agreement or reward. Such a divine gift is a complete favor, the irrefutable argument, and the unmistakable stamp. Concerning his knowledge, he says, and we cause Solomon to understand it, despite the contrary judgment of David. Although God granted them both judgment and knowledge, David's knowledge was an acquired knowledge, granted him indirectly by God, while Solomon's knowledge was God's own knowledge on the matter, he being a judge in the matter, without intermediary. Since Solomon was himself the exposition of God, of perfect veracity. Likewise, one who strives and makes a right decision in a matter in which God has ruled, whether by his own effort or according to what God has inspired his apostle, has two rewards, while one who makes a mistaken decision has only one, the former having used his learning and judgment. Now, this community of Muhammad has been granted the rank of both Solomon and David in the matter of judgment. How fine a community it is. When Bilqis saw her throne, knowing the great distance involved and the impossibility in her view of its being moved in such a short time, she said, "It is as if it were at," so confirming what we have said concerning the renewal of creation by similars. It is it, and so confirms the divine command, since you are, in the moment of recreation, essentially the same as you were before it. Solomon's direction concerning the palace was characteristic of the perfection of his knowledge. She was told, "Enter the palace," which was paved in perfectly smooth glass. When she saw it, she thought it was a deep lake, so she bared her legs, so that the water should not reach her gown. He then explained to her that the seeing of her throne was after the same manner, which did more than justice to the matter. By that he showed her how right she had been in saying, "As if it is as if it were at." It is as if it were it. Then she said, "O my Lord, surely I have wronged my own soul, so I submit with Solomon. O my Lord, surely I have wronged my own soul, so I submit with Solomon." That is the submission of Solomon to God, Lord of the worlds. She was yielding to God, the Lord of the worlds, and not to Solomon himself, who is of the worlds. She was not restricted in her yielding, no more than are the apostles in their belief in God. Unlike Pharaoh, who said, the Lord of Moses and Aaron. For though Pharaoh shares to some extent in this yielding of Bilqis, his power was weak, and she had greater understanding than he in her yielding to God. That is because Pharaoh was subject to the pressure of the moment in saying, I believe in what the children of Israel believe in. So specifying his belief, he did so only because he heard the magicians say concerning their faith in God, the Lord of Moses and Aaron. So you see, although here Bilqis and Pharaoh uttered something similar, where Bilqis said that she yields to the Lord of Solomon, i.e., it's a way of saying he's God, you know. But Pharaoh said, Lord of Moses and Aaron. But in Pharaoh's case, there wasn't really faith there. It was just the pressure of the moment. And as soon as that moment had gone, he, you know, because he didn't really have faith. And it was more about what the magicians were also saying, the Lord of Moses and Aaron. Probably some of the magicians did acknowledge. But with Bilqis, she did acknowledge, and she came to believe in God and recognize God. The submission of Bilqis was the same as that of Solomon, seeing that she said with Solomon, following him in all the teachings he believed in. In the same way, we are on the same straight path our Lord is on, our forelocks being in his grasp. Nor is it possible that we should be separated from him. We are with him by implication, and he is with us by declaration. Since he has said, he who is with you forever, since he has said, he who is with you wherever you are, we are with him by the fact that he has us by the forelock, and he is with himself wherever he may take us on his path. Everything in the cosmos being on a straight path, which is the path of the Lord. Thus, Bilqis learned from Solomon and said to God, the Lord of the worlds, without specifying any particular world. As the power of subjugation by which Solomon was favored and made superior to others, and the dominion God granted to him, and to none after him, its significance lies in the fact that it proceeded from him. As he says, we are subject to him, the wind, so that it blew at his command. And the matter of this subjection alone is not the point, since God has said, and he has subjected to you all that is in the heavens and the earth. And he has mentioned the subjugation of wind, stones, and other things. The point is that these things occur not by our command, but by God. So if something is, you know, like in the Quran, God says certain things have been submitted to us. This is by God's command. It's not by our own power that we do that. It's God who has commanded that that is the way it should be. So don't think anything which you have power or influence over is really your power. It is Allah who has allowed that to be the case. And that Allah can remove it at any moment. Even my ability to speak to you, or to read, or to move about. Allah can remove it from me in a moment, and I wouldn't be able to do any of those things. Even to be alive. The point is that these things occur not by our command, but by God's. What singles Solomon out from the rest of us, if you will only understand, is that he could effect such things by personal command alone, without the need for spiritual concentration or the exertion of spiritual power. We say this because we know that cosmic bodies are susceptible to the powers of souls, raised to the station of spiritual synthesis. Having observed such things along the way, Solomon, however, had only to utter the command to whatever he wished to subject, without the need for special states. No, may God assist both you and us with his spirit, that such a favor conferred on a servant does not affect any dominion he might enjoy in the hereafter, nor is it counted against him, although Solomon asked for it from his Lord. Experience of the way requires that Solomon should be given in advance what is held in store for others, who would be taken to task if they presume to wish for it in the hereafter. God said to them, "This is our favor," without saying upon you or any other. Going on to say, "So give or withhold," without reckoning. From spiritual experience on the way, we learn that his request for that was made at the command of his Lord. Now, when a request is made by divine command, the one who requests is fully rewarded for his request. The Creator fulfills the need implicit in what is requested, if he so wills or withholds it, since the servant has performed what God obliged him to do in obeying his command regarding that which he requested from his Lord. Had he made the request on his own initiative rather than at his Lord's command, he would have called him to account for it. This is the case in everything requested of God, as he said to our Prophet Muhammad, "Say, O my Lord, increase me in knowledge." Accordingly, he obeyed his Lord's command and was ever seeking more knowledge, so that when he was brought milk, he would regard it as a symbol of knowledge. He once dreamed that he had been given a bowl of milk, which he drank, giving what was left to Umar ibn al-Khattab. On being asked how he interpreted it, he said that he saw it as knowledge. Similarly, when he was taken on a night journey, the angel brought him a vessel containing milk and another wine. He drank the milk, and the angel said to him, "You have attained to the primordial state of innate spirituality. May God bless your community by you." Thus, whenever milk appears in a vision, it is an image of knowledge. Just as Gabriel presented himself to Mary in the guise of a well-made man. When Muhammad said, "All men are asleep, and when they die, they will awake," he meant that everything a man sees in this life is of the same kind as that which one sleeping sees. In other words, an apparition that requires interpretation. In other words, everything in this life is like a dream, but it's just why we live in this life. It has more reality than a dream. But in the grand scheme of things, when compared to the true reality of Allah's existence, it is like a dream. All becoming is an imagination, and in truth, also a reality. Who truly comprehends this has attained the mysteries of the way. Thus, when milk was offered to him, he said, "God bless us by it and give us increase of it," because he saw it as an image of knowledge. Increase us in which he has been commanded to seek. When something other than milk was offered, he would say, "O God, bless us by it and feed us with what is better than it." God therefore does not call anyone to account in the hereafter for what he has bestowed in answer to a commanded request. When, however, God bestows something in answer to a request not commanded by him, it is then for God to call that servant to account or not, as he wishes. I particularly hope, and especially concerning knowledge, that he will not call us to account, since his command to his prophets to seek an increase in knowledge applies equally to his community. God has said, "You have in the apostle of God an excellent exemplar." And what finer example is there for one who learns of God than his following by Muhammad of God's command? Had we expounded the station of Solomon completely, you would have encountered something awesome, for most of the learned of this order are ignorant of the station of Solomon, nor is it the matter as they claimed it to be. Alhamdulillah. Fascinating stuff. I do highly recommend this book if you want to understand your deen more deeply. This book by Ibn Arabi, the The Bezels of Wisdom. Amazing. The Bezels of Wisdom is obviously the English translation, but excellent book. Yeah, Eid Mubarak. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I have an appointment to be getting to, so unfortunately I will have to leave it there today. But if you find these videos and live broadcasts useful, please don't forget to subscribe to my Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channels. I will upload this to YouTube a bit later after I come back. And I wish you all the best. Have a lovely evening if you're in the UK, and wherever you are in the world, have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of the Eid festivities, which I dare say will continue over the weekend, and have a lovely weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.